So like you're talking about condensation like dripping from a cup onto like the coaster, right? And then you like pick it up and it's like drip. Okay. So my dad has like this like coaster that must be from the 90s because I remember it from when I was a kid. And it's like this cheap, flimsy thing from a dollar store from back then. It's literally just like a piece of plastic. It's like all stained up. It looks horrible. It looks like a doily, but for some reason it's like solid plastic, but it's like malleable. It's really weird. Every time he picks up a cup that's cold, the condensation makes the makes the coaster stick, and it's no, but it's even better. The garbage is right there, and every time he does it, it drops into the garbage. So you just be watching TV, you just hear "Kung fuck's sake," and it's multiple times per drink. It's not like once. It's not like once a day or like once a year or something. It's literally once, like it's like once per sip of the drink. It kills me every time. Just sitting there trying to watch TV. Kung fuck. Spend half your TV time and half your like iced tea drinking time digging through the garbage.
Hello, welcome. This is Day One Patch Podcast, episode 495. I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Only one person with me today. We've been off a couple weeks now, eh?
Yeah, end of summer. Pretty classic.
I got Matt Lawrence here with me.
I'm here, yeah.
How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing all right, yeah.
How's your summer going? Busy?
Extremely busy. I think this weekend is the only, and there's an event planned, but it's the only like weekend that isn't like an extravagant event planned.
Jesus.
I think that might be correct.
You still have plans though. It's not like you have a free weekend, right?
Right. I'm probably also incorrect. Like there's probably, something in there, but from the top of my head, I can't remember one. A little wild.
I've been pretty busy too lately. Thankfully work is like slow, but then like outside work like picked up in the summer, which I guess is kind of what you'd want.
That's pretty standard though, right? Like
I suppose, but I don't want my personal life to pick up in terms of busyness.
You don't want your personal life to pick up in terms of busyness.
No, I hate it if there's a week where every weekday I have something planned after work. Like that just pisses me off.
That is a lot. Like, and what really sucks about those days is like I'll feel bad too because someone will be like, "Yo," like let's say it's like I don't know, Wednesday is free. Mm-hmm. And then like someone that comes along, maybe it's like Friday of the previous week. So it's getting close to that Wednesday and it's like, yo, like, let's do this thing on Wednesday. And I'm just like, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
somehow
my God.
People know to fill up your open days.
It's a lot sometimes. It's just like, I just can't sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. We're going to start off with video game fun facts. You got one prepared for us, man? I didn't even ask.
Yeah. I sent it to you guys because you guys were supposed to record 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
I was really typing it out, and then you guys were like, "Yeah, we're not doing the podcast." I'm like, "I'm typing this thing out."
Tim canceled, right? Or did I cancel? Or did we both cancel?
I'm blaming it on both of you because I don't remember.
I'm blaming you then.
You can't. I was working on the damn. Anyway.
Were you?
Yeah, I have it here. Anyway, I don't know why all the noises or any of that, but anyway. But anyway, yeah. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this fun fact. This is actually the first fun fact that I was going to do, but didn't do because it was like too obvious, maybe even too on the nose. So now this is the 19th fun fact. I thought it was an appropriate just like bring it up. So this is the $1 billion mistake. And Ryan, you probably know what this is.
Oh, I do.
Oh, yeah. This is a pretty monumental piece of video game history, and it's like relatively recent. Just one or two generations back. So this is the Xbox 360 and the Red Ring of Death. So the Xbox 360 launched in November 2005. And shortly after that launch, a wave of customer complaints arose about about console failures. The complaints were not all, the Red Ring of Death as we know it. They were talking about frequent crashes. Some people were actually talking about weird shutdowns, although that was pretty rare. And then obviously many were also talking about there's a red ring of LEDs that appears. So the 360 has 4 sort of LED segments that form pretty much a circle around the power button, and they'll glow green in various orientations to show which player is on, right? Like the top left segment will light up with player 1, top right player 2, etc. So if there's a problem with the console, it'll also have like sort of an error code with that. And there's like a red ring of LEDs around it in the same sort of segment pattern. And this was what was being reported, that there were 3 red lights showing up on a lot of people's consoles. Now, this eventually saw a wave because right now it was just sort of chatter in forums, people kind of like talking about it here and there. The odd sort of like Better Business Bureau-ish kind of show picked it up, right? People would just sort of pick it up and be like, hey, like this happened. Hey, this happened. And then people would say like, I'm trying to get a hold of Microsoft and yada, yada. Like it's just sort of like the pandemonium after like a console launch where some people are having trouble and some shows will pick it up. So you have that. You just sort of have these like almost like rumblings that are like kind of unofficial, if you will, throughout the community. And this kept picking up. And then eventually there was like sort of a measurable kind of metric that showed up, which was that there was a higher than normal wave of console returns and warranty uses. So warranties were really being used at this point. And Microsoft started taking note of this increased return rate and began to do some internal testing to try and track down this problem, frequent crashes, the 3 red lights, etc. And Microsoft engineers use diagnostic tools to identify common failure points. And they used this alongside data that they had gathered from consumer reports and, of course, the returns, the customer complaints, those type of things. And their work resulted in the identification of 2 common problems. So A, there were a lot of bad solder joints, and B, the GPU would commonly overheat. Now, way back in the day, early YouTube, one of the big things that would quote unquote fix your 360, albeit it was found pretty soon to be a temporary fix, was actually the hot towel trick. Where I don't know if it's called the hot towel trick or just the towel trick. Basically, you'd wrap your console while it was on in a towel so that it couldn't breathe. It couldn't really intake too well. It couldn't expel the heat too well, is the point. And it would more or less like heat up really like a lot. And then you would turn it off, maybe unplug it, wait a little while. And then you would, plug it back in, turn it on, and it would work again. It wouldn't boot up to the 3 red lights. And that was because of the bad solder joints. So what it would basically do is it would sort of get so hot in there that the solder would sort of become a little malleable again. But of course, it's no definitive fix. And so many consoles like started failing again. Some people kept redoing the towel trick. Some people would just eventually send it in. So these issues were determined, so A and B were determined to be caused by A, which is the bad solder joints. The lead-free solder that was used wasn't resulting in a good bond. And this was considered an actual manufacturer defect. So this is something, in the line where it's like, hey, we could swap the solder kind of thing. But the letter B here, which is the overheating GPU, it was found to be more of an engineering defect. And it was found that the 360 did not have an adequate cooling solution to cool the GPU, especially during extended game sessions, especially in situations in which the console was put inside of entertainment units and things. And even when it was open air, where it was supposed to be, it still didn't have the greatest cooling. So it was inadequate. It was not a manufacturer defect. It was an engineering defect. Now, as these reports kind of come in, some of those smaller shows, like I said, some of the Better Business Bureau kind of ish shows, if you will, those kind of come and go. Widespread attention starts, kind of picking up. So bigger shows are picking up on it. And these problems eventually actually got so big that it started to catch the attention of the media. And actual news stations started reporting on this issue. Like, hey, Microsoft's brand new Xbox has this like serious problem and there's like a high failure rate. And, consumers are reporting this and this is a big mess. And then forums at this point, it went from just sort of like rumblings in the forums to they were actually being inundated with user complaints about console failures and coverages of these issues, so like, the news going through it, different people talking in the forums, also actually helped Microsoft engineers in kind of knowing the scale of the problem. Because in their testing, of course, they figured out bad solder joints, overheating GPU, but they weren't sure, like, okay, is this super widespread? Like, they're unaware of this. And it also, specifically most of the time in the forums, because some people write very detailed forum posts, some of those sort of forum posts really did help the engineers out because they would write things like, hey, I'm noticing this happen, when this happens, I'm noticing that this other thing happens when this happens, I've got a return unit and it broke after I did this, but this other one lasted longer, et cetera, right? And so it was kind of almost like this like kind of media firestorm. It was like total, a total disaster. But the amount of sort of coverage, the amount of sort of whether it was media coverage or just people complaining, just people like talking about it, kind of helped root out the problems, like figure out what the heck was going on, and eventually led to Microsoft's response. Now, before I jump into that, this is where the red ring of death comes in. So this is the RROD, red ring of death, and this is what it's called. So 3 red lights. It's dubbed the red ring of death. And it's like almost like a meme at this point. It's sort of like everybody would eventually get a red ring of death. I remember way back in high school, whenever we would play Xbox, like a bunch of us had Xbox, there was always someone down. Like it was like, okay, we got, 3 of our squad on, or even like 5 of our 8 people on or whatever. But like someone's always down with the red ring of death. And when that person gets their console replaced, somebody else's console would go down. So like this was a big issue. Like everybody's Xbox was seemingly like a ticking time bomb, effectively.
Yeah.
I would also like to say before I go into the response that you should not do the towel trick. You shouldn't be overheating your stuff. It's dangerous, and it's
any of the like fixes people had.
Right, like short of somebody, I guess, like resoldering a board properly or something. But like any sort of like quick fix or whatever, that was not the solve. That was not the thing of the solution to the issue. And I mean, like overheating your console in a towel is actually like literally dangerous. Mm-hmm. So like, don't do that. But anyway, so Microsoft, gets all this media attention. Their engineers are looking into things, yada yada. And so all the way in July of 2007. So remember, this thing released in November of 2005. So well over a year after this thing comes out, Microsoft officially acknowledged the issue, and they decided to extend the warranty of the console to 3 years, specifically for consoles affected by the red ring of death. Once, all this is said and done, so after all the console replacements, the troubleshooting by their engineers, sifting through forums, all that stuff, and dealing with the problem, this issue effectively cost Microsoft $1 billion. And eventually the hardware was revised, resulting in the Jasper model in 2008, which reduced the RROD, the red ring of death, significantly. And I've been watching some retro kind of console buyers and things lately. And like there's been people where they'll buy like a mystery box of like, I'll buy a lot of like 5 or 10 or whatever 360s. And they'll go and look at it. And they'll go like, like these 3 work, but these are the red ring of death model. So these will eventually, there's an extremely high likelihood, but these 3 will fail on us eventually. Like they'll red ring of death eventually. Yeah. Meanwhile, there's like one that still looks like, so the original model before the Slim was called the Inhale, or like commonly called the Inhale because of its curved sides. There is a model, and I believe it is the Jasper model, but there is a model of that where like these console buyers that I'm watching will specifically go like, okay, good. Like this is one of the ones that are fixed, or this one's like at least better. Like there's like one that's just like better. So this was a huge problem. And like I had this happen to me 11 times. I had 11 red ring of deaths. I had like every single console failure with the 360. Like it was an absolute mess. I had like a warranty. I return it. It was Future Shop at the time. Future Shop goes to repair it. They repair it. Then all of a sudden, it comes back and it breaks again. So then this, 2007 warranty extension comes out. So I try to send it to Microsoft. Microsoft says, oh, someone's been in here, tinkering with it. Probably the person that repaired it under warranty. Someone's been tinkering with it. So this isn't good. So then they send me back just a broken console, like not even mine. Like it was all dirty. There was like a sticker on it that said like Dead Angel or some crap on there. And like, it was just like not even my console. They just like sent me a console back. It was a mess. And so I ended up buying an Xbox 360 Elite, which was also an Inhale model, but it was black and had a really big hard drive. That also broke. Like I had to send that away for repairs. Then I had another console break, not with 3 red lights, but 2 red lights. Then I had another console where it broke because the actual hard drive broke, which I think was 1 red light maybe. Total and utter disaster. Like the 360 for me, for whatever reason, was just a total and utter disaster. It almost like kind of ruined my console, like my love of gaming a little bit, because it was like, this thing's a ticking time bomb. It always is. I'm a kid, so I can't just like go, screw it, I'm just going to go spend $300 or whatever it was at the time, buy another one or buy a used one. It's sort of like, I don't really have any money, so I have to like rely on my parents to like take me to the store, to get this thing returned again. And, it was a total and utter disaster for me personally. And like, I don't know anyone else that received Red Ring of Death 11 times, but I do know people that have, like many people that have received it several times, like 5 times, 8 times, 6, 7 times, whatever. And so this is an absolutely massive issue. I think I only know a single person that received the Red Ring of Death by their own like mistake. Like they did something wrong to the console and it broke. And that was the only Red Ring of Death they had. So I don't even really count that one. Like I'm counting like, a defect, whether it's manufacturer defect or engineering defect. That's what I'm counting. And like total and absolute disaster. What's weird is like I had all these problems and then I just like, I only ever got the Inhale model. Like I never reached the Slim model. I never like got another one. And I remember like I think my console broke.
Well, if you didn't need to, right?
I guess. But like when my console broke again, like I went to the Elite model and went to go get that repaired. And when I did that, like, I can't remember exactly now, it's been a number of years, but I ended up going back to like the white model, like the regular, whatever, non-elite version or whatever. And I went back to that model and I think that broke as well. And then EB Games had this like crazy deal where it was like trade 6 games in. And if they're above a certain value, we'll give you a 360 for literally $19.99. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. So I traded 6 games and get the console. That's the one I have now. And I have the disc tray problem with it, where the disc tray won't friggin' pop out. Absolute disaster. Like the 360 for me, what's weird is it's like super nostalgic. Love 360 games, like the design, like the blades, like the, it's kind of like the golden age of gaming for us, where it was like everyone was online. It was our high school, right? So people are like, they're hanging out all the time. They're hopping online type of thing. Weekends are full of gaming, including the evenings and all that stuff. You're barely ever without someone to game with. And like, yet for whatever reason, like that console was just a disaster for everybody. And yet we like stuck with it. So it's really isn't a testament to like, the games that were available and like, because people weren't switching to PlayStations. We could have switched to PS3 just as quickly, just as easily. Yeah. But no, like everybody stuck with the 360. So that's the $1 billion mistake. Ryan, I think you got a 360 as well, but you went slim, right?
I didn't get a 360 until I want to say the last year of high school or so. Maybe even after. It might have been right when high school ended.
Black Ops, I think, right?
Yeah, I was playing Black Ops with you guys. I do remember that.
I remember trying to like scan my memory. I think that's right.
And that was the Slim model.
Okay. So you never had like it break?
No. It did feel like it was cheap though.
Which is like so unfortunate.
The PlayStation 3 Slim felt really nice. It was a nice little package. It felt sturdy. Didn't have a disc tray, just had the slider injection one or whatever you call those.
Right.
But the 360 Slim just felt, you would pick it up and you could feel like the plastic like bend. You know what I mean? Like you could feel that it was depressing into the console.
Well, sorry, you're talking like the Slim one, right? And that had like, if I remember correctly, just trying to picture in my mind, it had like the glossy plastic.
Yeah, the piano black kind of look to it.
And like for whatever reason, like I don't know if it's whatever, like glossy plastic to me always feels really flimsy.
But they could have supported it through some sort of structure internally, but they just like it was just a casing for the hardware, really.
Right.
And it never felt like a great quality console to me. And I mean, they were making them cheaper than PlayStation was making theirs, so.
I guess that's one thing too is if they really put a lot of structure around it. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but this is a guess, but I would imagine it would insulate it, and you don't want that.
Yeah,
when you have overheating problems.
Yeah, and then they did have the one model after that. It wasn't much slimmer, but it more kind of matched the new design language of the Xbox One. Remember, this was the console you were supposed to use if you didn't have internet.
Oh yes, I do. It kind of had like an off-centered button.
They lost the hourglass.
It was like really small. That's right.
And it was just straight, but it had that dividing line on it still.
Right.
Like the Xbox One. And it wasn't a bad looking console. I didn't mind that look either. I don't know how it performed, or I haven't heard anyone. I've never seen it in person.
I was just trying to look up a picture and I don't even really know what to say. Like I know the one is the Slim. Oh, here it is. The Microsoft, this is according to Google, Microsoft Xbox 360e. Ooh, in stock online on Amazon.ca. Only 2 left.
Okay, it can't be brand new, is it?
Used. Says used here.
Yeah.
Used in good condition. Only 2 left.
How much?
$300 Canadian.
Whoa.
Comes with Halo 4 and Tomb Raider.
It's on eBay for $80.
That's just the console though, right?
I think so.
And this one probably comes in a box. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I wouldn't even be surprised if it's the box.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially.
I do remember a story now. I don't remember if I have all the details right, because Peter Moore, who used to be the CEO of EA,
yep,
he worked at Xbox or Microsoft.
That's right.
During the creation of the original Xbox and the 360.
Yep.
And he told this story of how, you know, they learned of this issue that was occurring. They did all the work trying to figure out what do we have to do to fix this. And it came to $1 billion. And he had to go to his boss, who was Steve Ballmer at the time, right?
Of course it was.
And he had to tell his boss, we have this massive issue with our super popular console. And to fix it, it's going to cost Microsoft $1 billion. And he said, do it.
I mean, because it probably still made them, like, it probably made them way more, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It saved the reputation of the entire brand, I think.
Well,
but you just imagine, like, people make little mistakes in their workplaces and have to tell their boss about it or whatever. And like I've had a couple of those moments and you just kind of dread it. But imagine having $1 billion mistake. You know, it's wild.
That sucks. Like that. Mm-hmm. That would really suck.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Trip down memory lane. I thankfully never had to experience the Red Ring. I only had my PS3 fail on me, and I think it was the disk drive. And I sent it back to PlayStation, and they fixed it for me, and then sent it back to me. That was the only issue I've ever really had with a console. So I guess I've been fortunate that way.
Well, I had really good luck with the PS3 as well. I had the 20 gig, like back and pat model. Mm-hmm. And then I had a tragedy where, like, years later, like, and I do mean years later, like, you know, we're well into the PS4 era, I think. My PS3 just, like, dies. Like, it just got the yellow light of death. And so I call Sony and I'm like, okay, like, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, you know, we still repair these things. Like, we can repair it, but you're out of warranty. You have to pay. So I pay them. They fix it. It comes back. And then I used it for like 2 or 3 weeks and it broke again. So I was like, oh, okay. So I called them again and they're like, yeah, you have to pay again. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to go get a slim model. But it sucked because I had the fucking launch day 20 gig, you know, back and pat model. But what can you do?
Yeah, that sucks. All right, let's hop into the stories for the week. Fortnite is back, baby. Back on the iPhone, that is.
What? Oh.
With the whole new App Store in tow. This is from The Verge. Fortnite is finally back on iOS just over 4 years after Apple booted it. I take umbrage with the use of Apple booting them. Okay. It fails to disclose that they broke the terms of service with the App Store, and therefore Apple removed them from the App Store. Anyway, I digress. However, this new Fortnite on iOS is only available in the EU, because that's where the rulings were.
Okay.
That regulators forced Apple to allow third-party app stores and sideloading. So yeah, the game is launching on both the new iPhone version of the Epic Game Store and through Alt Store, PAL or PAL, another third-party app store. The Epic Game Store is launching for Android users worldwide. So Matt, you might actually have it if you want to look for the Epic Game Store on your phone. I don't know how that works, but
wait, like it's its own. Oh, I think that. So there is like an Epic Games launcher. Okay, so to be clear, I used to download from the Galaxy Store, which I believe they are getting rid of, or they were going to get rid of, right?
I don't know what they're doing with the Galaxy. I don't know.
Because remember Tim Sweeney got pissed off at Samsung's thing. So like he was going to remove it, or he did, or I don't know the current status of that. But when I downloaded Fortnite, it did download. Like I still have it in my phone, but I haven't like booted up in a while. But it did download. If I look at it here, I have an Epic Games app, which is like a launcher, and then I have Fortnite as a separate app. But they're both from the Galaxy Store for Samsung. However, before this, on my previous phone, I just went to their website. So whatever website the launcher is from officially, I downloaded that and then I just installed it.
Yeah, we kind of should stress that if you're going to be downloading this stuff, please make sure you're going to the correct website.
Seriously,
to download these launchers on Android. And I'm not sure what the deal is with iOS in the EU, but just make sure you're being careful with where you're downloading these alternate app stores. The launch follows years of litigation between Epic and Apple, as well as regulatory changes ushered in by the EU's Digital Markets Act, which forced Apple to allow alternate app stores. Epic plans to eventually bring its games to Aptoid's iOS store in the EU and the One Store on Android, and says in a blog post that, quote, "We look forward to bringing our games to other stores around the world," end quote. While the mobile Epic Game Store currently has just 3 first-party games, the company is already in discussions with third-party mobile developers. Epic aims to have a curated selection of third-party games on the mobile store in December. VP and Epic Game Store GM Steve Allison said, with self-publishing, which is already possible on PC, set to arrive in early 2025. Epic also plans to bring over, quote, everything it offers on PC, like its 88% revenue share for developers, free games for players, and the option for developers to use their own payment platforms. It's aiming for 100 million net new Epic Game Store mobile installations by the end of the year, Allison said, though that could be hampered by hurdles in Apple's third-party installation process. So, this is just another tale. We've been covering this for a long time, but this is the next step, I guess. And Epic is not really stopping there either. Obviously, they still want to fight for their own app stores in the US and Canada and the rest of the world outside the EU. But what's your take on this, Matt?
I mean, I don't know. I'm still a little on the fence about this. Like, it does feel a little bit like I'm fine with it. To be clear, like I'm fine with it. I'm not like gonna like run out there and start yelling and screaming about it. But like on one hand, this like my conflict in my head is that on one hand, on my my PC, I rarely use the Microsoft Store, which is the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely use that. For the most part, I'll go to a website and download, my browser or, a chat app or whatever it is I'm downloading. On the other hand, though, I have this problem where I'm thinking I'm like kind of like half with you, I think, where it's like the Apple ecosystem is locked down or like was, I guess, locked down. It's like the walled garden effect, but there was always the competitor Android. And it is a little bit weird that there can't be a walled garden phone, or seemingly there can't be one.
Yeah,
I do find that weird. But then like again, like this is this sort of like waves of like back and forth where then I start thinking to myself, okay, well, what if Microsoft said, all right, that's it, only Microsoft Store? It's like, well, a significant portion of my apps won't work. And an even further significant portion of my apps that will work, but there'll be different versions. Like the Microsoft Store version is like cut off at the knee a little bit, or it's like not as good, or like it gets like 2.5 out of 5 or something in there because it crashes a lot or something like that. And so like I don't know how to feel about this in general a little bit, because I had some time to think about it, and like I get it. It's sort of like Apple in one way is sort of, I guess, like touching that antitrust line where it's like they're selling you a phone or they're locking it down. They're making sure that they get a portion of all the sales of things on the phone for the most part, things like that. And it's sort of like, I would say that at least from my knowledge, that's not immediately clear to a consumer. Is it, Ryan? Like it's not told to you.
No.
But like, again, like this is this weird line where, but then again, if I pay a convenience store for a chocolate bar, like where's that money going? Just to the convenience store, or is it like, you know what I mean? Is there something else happening? Like, are they investing it in something that I don't like, or you know what I mean? Like there's no way to track all that crap. Or if there is, like it's a never ending chain of nonsense and it starts getting, a little bit silly. Like my point is that you're not always like privy to every intricacy of a business deal, even if you're part of it. Like you're, even just as the consumer, you are a part of that deal.
I think the problem stems from there being only 2 platforms, iOS and Android.
Right.
And it's like, because like basically if Walmart was the only store that existed, right, and Tim Sweeney comes in and puts down a display to sell, Fortnite copies right in the front of the entrance. That's basically what he was asking for with iOS. Let me sell it and not give you anything, but I'm going to use your store as a storefront. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And
Walmart has the right to sell what they want to sell and take a commission on what they're selling. They get a portion of the sales profits, right?
But then there's like that whole then there's like the idea that while Walmart could hypothetically buy your whole neighborhood, and then they own the streets, but are they going to say, hey, you can't purchase things from any place but Walmart?
But what I'm saying is the issue only stems from there being one Walmart.
Right.
When you have competing stores in the town, like Epic would be kind of dumb to walk into Walmart and say, you must sell our things and take no money for it.
Right.
You have to do all the work selling it and making the store and making sure the lights are on,
stocking the shelves and all that.
Yeah. And then we take all the money from our sales and you get nothing. Like, that's bizarre. And I feel like that's what Epic has been arguing for. But because there's only iOS and Android, it's like he has a case there where it's like, okay, well, the consumers don't really have a choice. The consumers can't say, I don't like the way they're treating the app developers at Apple. I want to go, to Android, who's also doing the same thing, right?
Well, doing the same
Google
thing
takes
with an asterisk, though, because the Google Play Store certainly takes a cut. But Android, there's a lot of Android phones out there, like Huawei phones, which aren't really sold here anymore. But Huawei phones, as far as I know, do not have Google Play services and do not have the Google Play Store. So Android is still available with different app stores. I mean, I have a Samsung Galaxy. It does absolutely have the Google Play Store, but it also has the Galaxy Store. So, I mean, even, I think it might be the number one Android brand, which is Samsung. I believe that's true. Don't quote me. But even the number one has, 2 app stores on the phone already.
Right.
And ready for a consumer. Like someone who just buys the phone can just go into the apps and see, oh God, there's the Google Play Store and there's the Galaxy Store. It's not like, well, go into the settings, turn this on, that on, go to this website, do this and that to get the Galaxy Store. It's right there in your face already. So I don't know. I just don't know how to feel about. I just don't know how to feel about this in general. It just feels if PCs were made today, or more importantly, if they were made when the smartphone, specifically when the app stores started getting more popular, I want to know whether I would be downloading most of my apps from the Microsoft Store, and I wouldn't be going to websites.
100%.
I don't know if that's true though, because is this a Microsoft versus Apple situation in the same way it's Android versus Apple?
Yeah, because Apple has an app store on Mac OS, but you can still go to websites and download apps without Apple having any say in the matter.
Right.
Right. But if Mac OS did not exist, but the iPhone did, and the Mac OS came out tomorrow, it for sure would only have an app store that was the only place to access apps. 100%. Apple wants that. It's just the problem is apps for PCs developed before Apple had an app store. And so macOS already had that mentality of go to a website, download whatever you want. And it wasn't until 10 years ago that they actually launched the Mac App Store. But they couldn't then force all these developers to use it because everyone was used to just getting their apps from wherever.
Right. It had been too long. The Falcon has flown at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. But if it didn't exist and they made macOS today, it would have an app store where it was the only place to get apps. 100%.
I wonder. See, it's weird even to think about that future, because I was going to say, would somebody be crying for the ability to do what Epic is doing? But I don't even know if we would have thought about it, because if we never had the ability to just download apps and programs from the internet, would we have ever been like, man, I wish we could just download it and not use an app store? It would seem so, it doesn't seem that weird to ask for that on a phone, because our Macs and our PCs do that and have done it for years. It's kind of grandfathered in, like you were saying, but it's weird. Would it be weird if we never experienced downloading apps from a website? Would it be weird, do you think, for us to be like, man, I wish I could do this from a website? Would we even ask for that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's only because we know it's possible that some people like Tim Sweeney want it.
Right.
But the operating system, at least for Apple, they create and sell, and it's their product that is an iPhone with iOS installed on it.
Right.
Both belong to Apple, right? And so, it would make perfect sense for them to have an app store that blocks everyone else, and you have to go through their app store. That's the product they're selling.
Right.
And the problem is, I guess, there's not enough competition of someone doing it how Tim Sweeney wants. So yeah, you can go to Android, but Google does the same thing where they really want you going through the Google Play Store. Yes, you can sideload, but they put a bunch of roadblocks in and scary language trying to deter most consumers from going that route. Even if they're valid, like security concerns, right? They obviously get a cut. They take a 30%, just like Apple does. They obviously have an interest in having people use the Google Play Store,
right,
to purchase their apps. So I guess Tim Sweeney was just basically saying there is no real alternative. Most consumers do not sideload on Android, even though they can, right? Now his problem is anyone going to download these alternate app stores? The average, consumer of an iPhone or a Android device probably isn't going to go download a third-party app store.
And like this is, excuse me, this is where I struggle. Where like I wouldn't even be surprised if on a previous podcast, because we've covered Tim Sweeney's stuff for quite a while. I wouldn't even be surprised if on a previous podcast I said that Apple should surrender the right to, or should surrender the fact that they should allow, I guess is a better way to say it, they should allow third party sort of quote unquote random app stores. I wouldn't even be surprised if I'm not sure if I am quoted in saying that. I wouldn't be surprised in that. And that, like, it's an testament to sort of my flip flopping on this, but it's because like every time I think about it, it's like I end up like flip flopping on the issue. Right. Because like this feels like you're taking, because you said it like just in your like statement there, you said, like iOS, is the property of Apple. And like, I kind of hesitated there because I was thinking, well, it kind of feels like they're losing a bit of that ownership now. But to be fair, they still make it within like the confines of the law. Like they're not making iOS and then like iOS is actually an operating system that murders people or something, right? So like there's still sort of limitations or like bits of things that they quote unquote can't have ownership over, or at least not legally. Like they, you know what I mean? They can't make certain types of apps, or they can't make certain types of experiences without breaching some sort of law.
Well, we talked about this. We talked about this last time we were kind of discussing the same topic. It's like, and when you get so big, you lose the right to control your own products.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did talk about that. Yeah.
You're no longer a product and you're now a platform. And that is viewed differently, I guess, among the regulators. Because now it's like you are now a marketplace within a marketplace. Right. And so it's like that now has to be governed the same way the standard marketplace is governed.
What's super fascinating about that is like sometimes it's a no-brainer. It's like if Apple was like totally abusing its power, which I feel like Tim Sweeney kind of like feels like he's like that it is a bit of an abuse. And like I don't mean to put words in his mouth.
He for sure thinks it's an abuse though. That's why he's fighting it and suing them. I guess
my like I have this like weird thought where it's like, okay, let's say like I decide one day, and this is totally made up. Let's say I decide one day I'm gonna make a smartwatch, and I make the smartwatch and I make it just like super simple. And because I made it super simple, I've included my own apps. I've made, a watch app. I've included a timer app, maybe a couple other little things. Maybe like, I don't know, Pogo works on there or something. Just, a few little things. Yeah. And I've decided to make it, this 5 or 6 simple smartwatch device. It's weird to think that this hasn't happened, but it's weird to think that it was potentially possible, probably if I were to scale the company up, for like a regulator to show up and go like, hey, why is only Pogo on there? Why isn't, Ingress on there? And why isn't like Monster Hunter Now on there? And, I'm sure better examples would be ones that aren't all by Niantic, but like another example, like, you know what I mean? Like another game, like why isn't that on there? Or like, why do you have to use your calculator? Why can't we just use like any calculator we want and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm trying to make a simple, I'm not trying to do the Apple thing where I'm trying to take 30%. I'm literally just like, hey, like I'm trying to make a simple watch here. Let's calm it down. It's just like, it feels weird that it could potentially, and like it's just a stretch now at this point, but it could potentially be like, no, like you must allow, Ingress and all these other games to be on there. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, I can't make a simple watch then, or right. what I would see as simple. I can't do that then. That feels like a weird thing to regulate.
It's a little weird.
It's a little bit weird, right?
Yeah. Now, obviously, I mean, I say this all the time. I have to disclose I am an Apple shareholder. I am also an Apple fanboy, so I obviously have a bias. But putting the financial bias aside, because I don't think that really affects my views. I don't want multiple app stores.
Right.
As a consumer, that makes the job of managing apps, managing downloads, managing updates, managing payment methods, managing subscriptions to those apps. It makes my job as a consumer more difficult. You were complaining about the subscriptions on PlayStation and how they have a subscription button in their settings, but not for the subscriptions of games. It's for Sony stuff only. And you have to go to like services or something like that to find like your Fortnite crew or your Fallout 76 subscription, right?
Yeah, follow first. Yep.
But on iOS, and I don't know how Android is as at all, but I go to my settings, I tap on my name, there's a button that says subscriptions. It has all the apps that have subscriptions that I am subscribed to. And I can cancel them here. I can change them right here. I can see what's active and what's inactive. And it's just such an easier process for a consumer. And now it's like, okay, now I'm going to have apps all over the goddamn place, because they're all going to have exclusivity things. Epic's going to have like, oh, this app's exclusive to our Epic Game Store, and it's a subscription app or something. And now I got to go to there and manage it. It's just a hassle and a giant mess,
Yeah, like I just went and kind of dug in based on what you were saying, and I'm on the Google Play Store. So like I said, I do have the Galaxy App Store as well, but I have the Google Play Store here open, and yeah, like I literally go to like a settings thing, and I click on my profile. I then click on payments and subscriptions, and then it pulls up a bunch of different things, and I can click on the subscriptions button, and it shows me a bunch of stuff. Like I'm subscribed to get like more Google Photo Space, Disney Plus, things like that. And so like just an example of like, yes, there's a Google sub in there, but like Disney Plus is not Google.
Right. And I know Apple gets a cut of these things, but it's just like competition is supposed to be better for the consumer, but that doesn't always mean an infinite amount of options. That's not always the best case for the consumer,
I'd agree with that for sure.
It's probably better for the developers. They can get better deals. If they don't want to pay Apple 30%, they can go on the Epic Game Store and only pay 12%. That's great. But as a consumer, it's not what I personally want.
This makes me like, one thing I was thinking of is like, what, if we take this example and we pull it out of smartphones and we push it onto something like a smart TV, like a Samsung smart TV doesn't just load up Samsung free. It'll load up Netflix. It'll load up, Crave in Canada. It'll load up, Disney Plus, I believe, and a whole bunch of different apps. A whole bunch of different like third-party apps. It's interesting that like smart TVs have never, I don't know how the payment structure is with the 30% or whatever, but I'm not even sure like if that's the main point of contention. Like it's a major point of contention, but like to the regulators, like would the regulators care if the 30% was there or not? Like what do they ultimately care about? Do they care that Apple is making the 30%, or do they care that Apple is locking it down? Because like the result is the same, right? Like you could have this, like why can't I have, a third party app store, on my smart TV? But it goes back to that watch example that I said, where it's like a smart TV sometimes is a lockdown experience because it's just a TV. In my case, it's just a simple watch, or like what I would consider a simple watch. Like I don't know. It feels this feels weird. Like now that we've done it, this feels weird.
It's also the 30% was not, Apple didn't pull that out of their ass. That wasn't them trying to take more than someone else. That was industry standard pricing. Google takes 30%. PlayStation takes 30%. Steam takes 30%. Do you know what I mean? And so he's arguing as if like Apple is like this evil corporation because they take 30%, but every other store also took 30%. And they even questioned him. Now, this was a long time ago, so my memory might be hazy, but during the trial, they questioned Epic, like, why are you okay with paying Xbox and PlayStation 30% for like Fortnite V-Bucks, And he said, he thinks that the consoles, like, they put in enough, they sell them at a loss and they put in enough work, and that they're owed the 30%. And it was like, well, Apple also manufactures the iPhone and markets them and sells them and ships them around the world and brings the App Store to more markets all the time, and they're not deserving of 30%. It's just bizarre.
And then you really have to ask a question like, why aren't all devices generic? Like short of their computational power or their use case, like obviously a watch usually has a round, very small display. So I mean, I suppose you could load Netflix on there, but it wouldn't be the greatest experience.
Right.
So maybe that wouldn't run on there just for UX purposes. But like, then it starts begging the question of like, well, these consoles, they're x86, if that makes any sort of difference. They're x86, they're powerful. They're powerful computationally for the price and for their size. Why not make it so that you must be able to download all these apps. You must be able to download Steam on them, right? Like, why is it, again, like it comes down to that, like, I know I keep saying the simple watch idea, but it's like the Xbox, you could say is a simple computer in that, it really doesn't do a lot of, you're not opening, Excel spreadsheets. I'm sure someone knows how to do that, but like in general, you're not opening Excel spreadsheets. You're not doing that type of thing on there. You're even, oftentimes not really even doing web browsing on there. You're doing, it's really gaming stuff. And then, it's a TV, it's always connected to your TV. So it's got some TV stuff, Netflix and things like that.
Yeah.
But like, why isn't it considered we must open this up with this, we must have it be generic? That's a good question. Like, obviously we're talking in hypotheticals now, and like, it can start getting a bit silly, right? Where it's like, when people start getting worried about something and they go like, well, if this happens, then this is going to happen, then that's going to happen, then this is going to
start arguing the extremes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it starts getting a bit silly. Like, I feel like maybe we're even bumping up on that, but like maybe not with the consoles. Like, the consoles really could sit on my desk, put Windows on there. Like, I could use an Xbox and do my work. Like, there's enough computational power there.
Yeah.
So why can't I do that? And then why can't I install the Epic Game Store on there? And then, this list just goes on and on and on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the dust is going to settle at some point. I think this is just the start of the settling. And I don't have strong opinions on this. I know it kind of sounds like I might, but I feel like I've kind of been consistent. I've always said that it's one way or the other. It's like what happens on iOS with other app stores is exactly how macOS operates. So that's not a big deal there. So why should I care about the iOS? My only problem is it's going to negatively impact minorly my iOS experience. That's my only gripe with this, right?
Well, first of all, it's not going to impact your iPhone. Like, this is EU only for the moment. I guess.
Right, yeah.
I guess
but
my
it could spread.
It could spread, but like, I'm just trying to think of a scenario in which, like, you boot up your iPhone. Would they ever force it to have other stuff on there other than the App Store? I don't know.
Not by default, but I believe how they're handling in the EU, I think, again, how they're handling browsers is like when you boot up your iPhone for the first time, it'll show you a list of, browsers on the App Store, third-party browsers and Safari, and it will say like, which one of these do you want to install as your default browser?
Can Apple say like this one's recommended and point to Safari?
No, but I believe I'm not I don't want to speak without really knowing, but it might be randomized what order they appear in.
I was actually going to say, what order is that fucking listed? Did someone get money?
Safari on the top? I don't know. I don't know what it shows.
Interesting. That is so, and you can't skip that step, I assume, because you need a web browser. Like, well,
right.
Generally speaking. So like, you must select a web browser at checkout. That's setup. This is like that thing that we were discussing, and this was totally a hypothetical conversation. I want to be clear with Adriano one day where we were saying how and this was us doing that thing where it's like, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. This was like just for the sake of a conversation. Is we were talking about how like a device, you buy a device, so like slab of glass, which is a la our phones now, and quite literally. Then you choose the OS, but then it's like, hang on, who wrote the software that allows you to choose the OS? And then it's like, well, okay. And then what order are those like operating systems in? And like, how colorful are they? What are the size of the icons? You know what I mean? Like, obviously we were just for the sake of extrapolating, we were just kind of shooting the shit. But it became like, okay, that's it. We can't have anything on the phone. It must be blank. So then like I was like, okay, great. So now we must have another device that has an OS installed to allow you to like plug into that in order to like, go to a web portal, I guess. And then who's making that website? And then then you tell it, okay, over USB or over Bluetooth or however you connect it to it, send the OS to this new device. But the thing is what if you're brand new? Like you're a child, you don't have a personal device yet. You get your first personal device ever. How do you get that device to work? I mean, you could probably plug into your parents' device, but what the kind of like the funny meme kind of thing is there is like, hang on a second. that means you must have a device that has an OS. So if we ever lost, like if a family for whatever reason, loses, all their phones somehow, like all their phones just poof, and that's the only device they have. Many households only have phones now. He wouldn't be able to install, like you'd go to the Apple store, you'd buy 4 more iPhones, 3 more iPhones. You wouldn't be able to install. You'd have to go to like your neighbor who has something installed. Like it's just, it starts getting silly.
So I looked it up. So this is how it works. After iOS 17.4, when you launch Safari, you will then get a prompt that says choose your default web browser. You will then be presented with a list of 12 of the most popular web browsers in random order.
Okay. I like the random order. I like the dedication to this.
But so so Safari is still installed by default, it sounds like.
I wonder if that might be for like safety. Like what if someone bought a device and has no internet?
This says after updating, that means you already had iOS running with Safari as the default browser. And then it says after updating to iOS 17.4 that you will then be prompted. I don't know what it's like when you get a new phone.
Okay. Because like I wouldn't be surprised if something like a dialer would still be around. Like it'd be the Apple. I know you can't change the dialer, or at least as far as I know. You can't change the dialer on iOS, but you can change the dialer on Android. Like you can use any dialer you want. It just uses like the phone's, I don't know, whatever SDK to dial out. So you can use whatever the hell you want. At least at my last check, I never change it because I don't care. But like I think that, well, I don't know. I was gonna say like the browser, like the dialer would be for safety. You buy a device in a remote area, you have no data.
Yeah,
it can't be like, hey, like you can't dial out. And it's like I have an emergency. It's like you can't dial out. Like this is an antitrust. Trying to dial 911, but it's like no, like, this is an antitrust issue. Like this is more serious.
Yeah.
So I'm like, would there be like I mean, I don't even know if it's a safety issue at that point, but like, is there a safety issue potentially with the browser? I don't know.
Nah, I don't know. It's all very murky. All right, let's move on though. I'm sure we'll hear more of what's happening with Epic and their fight for more money
for friggin' years to come. I'm sure. Holy crepe.
Yeah. This was an interesting story. Hi-Fi Rush IP and Tango Gameworks acquired by Krafton from Xbox, and the studio will no longer be shut down. This is from IGN here. PUBG, PUBG publisher Krafton has acquired Tango Gameworks and the Hi-Fi Rush IP from Xbox, meaning the studio will no longer be shut down. Krafton shared the news in a press release alongside confirming that, quote, as part of the strategic agreement, Krafton intends to collaborate with Xbox and ZeniMax to ensure a smooth transition and maintain continuity at Tango Gameworks, allowing the talented team to continue developing the Hi-Fi Rush IP and explore future projects, end quote. In May 2024, Microsoft announced that it had closed a number of Bethesda studios, including Tango Gameworks and Redfall's Arcane Austin. This was obviously met with a shock and anger by developers and fans alike, especially after Microsoft executive Aaron Greenberg said on X in the past that Hi-Fi Rush was a breakout hit for Xbox and its players in all key measurements and expectations. I want to know what this has been like for the developer, because what was the shutdown process like? Microsoft announced this back in May. Were people still employed? Were people still employed this entire time?
Well, and it's one of those things too where it's like, even if you were still employed, it's like a lot of people are gonna be like, all right, it's time to start job searching and leave immediately, like as quickly as possible.
Or I guess, but if you left, would you not get like severance and stuff and whatnot? Certain,
not if you leave on your own accord.
That's what I'm saying. So you wouldn't necessarily leave. You would just wait until they fire you because the studio got shut down.
Maybe like the question there is like, what do you gamble with? Do you gamble with getting a severance package and losing an opportunity?
Yeah.
So there is a gamble there. I like 100%. I've been at a company that was struggling straight up, and people were jumping ship left, right, and center.
Right. Yeah.
So like, I'll tell you that now. I don't know what the backroom deals, if there even were any, not backroom deals, but like one-on-one deals when they were like, yo, I got to quit to their manager. And then obviously there's like a meeting that happens there. I don't know what those deals were like whether there was a severance when people quit or whatever. Probably not. Laying off, like if someone's being laid off, yeah. You get a severance, you do whatever based upon a certain amount of parameters or whatever, and you're eligible for it. But when you leave, I believe you never get a severance. That might be wrong.
Staying on too might also hurt your hireability. if the reputation of whatever is, crumbling goes down and down, and it's like, oh, you're from that studio, you know what I mean? Not obviously in this case, but I'm just saying maybe other cases where a studio gets shut down, you'd want to leave as quick as possible.
I think it really depends because, actors are in bad friggin' films. And
Hollywood's weird. There's a lot of people who shouldn't get more jobs, and they do somehow.
Well, I know that there's
particularly directors somehow get more movies after making horrible movies. There's
definitely some wishy-washy stuff in there, right?
Something's going on.
But in general, I think in terms of it, let's say it's a non-corrupted situation or a non-wishy-washy situation. Someone can look at the movie such as Borderlands and determine, oh, that person acted well. Even though the movie was bad, they acted well. I will hire them for this other role.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure Cate Blanchett's going to be fine. Right. Jack Black's going to be fine. He was in the Mario movie too, so they offset this. Kevin Hart's going to be fine. He's always making movies all the time. He's got his stand-up career and stuff.
He's got his Jumanji.
Yeah, where he's actually funny. I don't know why they hired Kevin Hart for Borderlands, where he wasn't funny.
I mean, spoiler alert, he's not Roland either. He is man in beret, and his name just so happens to be Roland. He's not Roland the character. I don't even like Borderlands that much, and I was like, this isn't Roland. Like, who
None
the fuck
of them were
wrote
really
this?
their characters.
No,
maybe Jack Black was kind of Claptrap.
Claptrap's
annoying.
Yeah, the only source of laughs I noticed in the theater,
but also not a lot of laughs.
No,
but also there wasn't many people in the theater.
I'm personally glad that I got a larger popcorn. So my popcorn lasted about 80% of the movie. So I was just sort of snacking, and then there was just a movie on in the background.
You were just sitting there snacking then.
Snacking with my $15 bag of popcorn. just like my $6 drink or whatever it is.
God damn.
I like the premium stuff, top shelf.
All right. Well, yeah. I don't know how long it takes for these studios to shut down. Like maybe when they announce it, maybe there's still like a whole process of shutting it down, and they keep people on for 6 months. Who knows how long? I've never really thought about it. I always just felt like, it's like, next week you're all packing up. Here's your cardboard box. Clean out your desk.
Classic movie.
Yeah. But I think this is good for them. I hope you never played Hi-Fi Rush, did you?
No, but I did play Ghostwire.
Okay, well, yeah. Some people like it, some people don't like it.
I'll say this: if you like it, fantastic. I'm not with you though.
Hi-Fi Rush, I believe, is still on Game Pass here, isn't it?
Maybe. I have no idea. Actually, I mean, it was made when it was it's probably still an Xbox title, right?
Well, it's interesting that Krafton owns the IP now. That Xbox even gave up that IP of what was, by their own words, a successful game in all key measurements.
I don't know what happens in.
Or sorry, they didn't say successful. They said breakout hit.
I thought they said that the metrics, a lot of the metrics. The points.
Here's the quote: breakout hit for Xbox and its players in all key measurements and expectations. But does a hit mean financial, or does a hit just mean popular?
Is this like a situation where it's like this is a PR bad news? Were we actually given bad news, but they PR'd it so well that we're like, yeah, you're right.
Well, I remember they asked, what's the guy who runs Xbox?
Phil Spencer.
I remember they asked Phil Spencer, is Game Pass profitable? And he was like, Game Pass is successful. I'm like, wait a second.
Hold up.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Successful can simply mean meeting your goals internally. That doesn't mean it's profitable. And I have a hard time believing it's profitable. When you put a game on there like Halo that costs hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't think you're making money on that.
I don't know. I saw a tweet the other day, or an X post, I guess, the other day, where it was I don't even know who said it. I just saw it in passing, and it was something like, if you think, Game Pass is bad for developers, you have no idea how this industry works. It's actually great for developers, and there was a whole list of stuff in there.
About it too.
Assuredly, there's always going to be someone that doesn't like.
Or no,
anything.
Was that someone complaining about? Oh, they put their game on PS Plus and they thought it tanked them because you get a base payment $50,000 or something like that. It was a smaller game, $50,000
something, right?
Yeah, and he was like, we could have made more money if we had sold that amount rather than just getting a lump sum from Sony.
Right. But then it's like, it was free for PlayStation Plus holders. So like, would you have actually gotten that many sales? It's a gamble.
Phil Spencer said, I guess, to the Wall Street Journal that Game Pass subscription service is already profitable. So he's saying it is. He's saying it is profitable. I have a hard time believing it. I don't think he's lying, but I don't know what's going on in the back end to make that profitable. But Jesus,
is it? Yeah, is it like we're just squeaking by profitable, or is it like we're like we're seeing some good return, or like we're expecting to see some real good return?
Mm-hmm. So anyway, good for Tango Gameworks there. I hope they can go on to make more projects. I'm surprised Microsoft gave up the IP, but maybe that's just they just cut their losses, I guess, and we're done with it.
Man, Ghostwire 2. Let's go.
All right, our final story, one we've talked about a long time, Matt. Activision finally doing something about Call of Duty's giant downloads.
Holy crap. It's freaking about time. It's got to be said.
This is from The Verge. The default separation of Warzone is happening soon on August 21st, alongside the launch of Season 5 Reloaded. As part of that, when you download an annual Call of Duty game, you'll also be able to opt in to also download Warzone if you want. And if you just want to download Warzone, that will still be an option as well. With Season 5 Reloaded, Activision also says that it's going to rely more on texture streaming, and players will be able to pick between optimized, the default, or minimal streaming. In mid-October, Activision plans to introduce a new user interface for browsing your Call of Duty games too. However, this is where things kind of get crazier, so buckle up a bit, man. To prepare for these changes, Activision says you're going to have to download a big update as part of the Season 5 rollout that will reorganize game files and add new tech to prep the way for the full player interface. After that update is done, Activision says that Call of Duty's footprint will go down because of the file optimizations. PlayStation 5 players will have to download a series of updates because of differences in file organization. Because of the updates, Activision says the Black Ops 6 will be a smaller download at launch than Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. The company doesn't have a specific download size for Black Ops 6, but it says that the estimated file size shown on pre-order listings doesn't represent the download size or disk footprint for the game. Activision has already had to clarify this after an Xbox store page listing showed a jaw-dropping 309.85 gigabyte download. So, goddamn.
That's so... Man... You'd have to buy one of those, like those memory cards, like the Seagate memory cards. And like Call of Duty starting to like, I don't even know the sizes of those things, but Call of Duty starting to like, I'm sure bump up against the size of those. I'm looking that up while you talk here. I'm going to want to see this.
Well, it makes sense for them when Warzone launched to launch it with Call of Duty. You know, Zombies was a popular game mode that launched with the Call of Duty. So adding Warzone made sense, right? But now that Warzone is popular on its own, it does make sense to now separate them and not have to have you download both at the same time. And why they didn't do this sooner, I don't know, because it's been popular for a while. My only question is Microsoft making this happen? Or is this an independent, like Call of Duty decided finally we're going to do this on our own?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Xbox/Microsoft had something to say about it, because I'm looking here. There's 3 Seagate storage cards on Seagate.com, and we got 512. I can't even stop laughing about this. It's on sale, so the non-sale price is $124.99 Canadian. So you would pay $124.99 Canadian to have well over half of your Seagate drive filled with the initial, not even the updated, the initial install of Black Ops 6 according to that store listing, if you know that held true. I wouldn't be surprised if like someone at Microsoft was like, hang on a second. Like I have a 512 gig card and it's like I can't fucking have Call of Duty, like 2 Call of Duty games. What is going on here? This is incredible.
What's funny too is the interface makes it look like you're supposed to have the last 3 Call of Duties on your console at all times. You know?
Yeah, it's like with the, like the Battlefield, like sort of like I don't know if it's like a launcher, but like the Battlefield like menu on the left side where he opens up. And I remember like on my series, or not even my series, on my Xbox One, I was like, I can't fucking have 4 Battlefield games on here.
Right, yeah.
Like I got other, first of all, like, I mean, maybe I could by default if I had nothing else on the drive, but I'm not just playing different Battlefield games. Like this is crazy.
Yep. Looking at I have Modern Warfare 3 installed on my PC. It says it's only 68 gigabytes. Oh, sorry, that's the base game.
Oh.
The base game is 68 gigabytes. The Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer, 36 gigabytes. Modern Warfare 3 Warzone, 14 gigabytes. And Modern Warfare 3 campaign, 23 gigabytes. So if I quickly add these up here, because it's not giving me a full size for some reason.
Quite.
And maybe it does somewhere else. But
quite a lot, anyway.
just give me 1 second.
I'm looking here now at the Western Digital storage expansion card. Now, someone told me, I don't know if this is true. Someone told me that these Western Digital cards are like not as capable as the Seagate cards. And I don't mean in a way of like splitting hairs, pulling it into a lab and like looking at the graphs. I'm talking like someone told me that you can't put Series X games on here, and I think that's nonsense. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know for a fact, but that wouldn't make sense to me to offer that kind of like, because you have to work with Xbox to make that card, right?
Right.
So Western Digital would have had to work with them. I don't think they would allow you not to be able to run Series X games.
It says here, as game files get larger, no, it should say as Call of Duty files get larger, the Western Digital Black Sea, whatever, blah, 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 storage expansion card for Xbox is the fast and easy way to give your Xbox Series X and S a big capacity boost and keep more titles installed. Hey, there we go. Officially licensed card, just plug it in directly into the console. I'm just kind of paraphrasing here. For similar performance as the Xbox internal storage.
There you go.
So yeah, there we go. Yeah. Now the Western Digital only comes with 512 or 1 terabyte.
Modern Warfare 3 on my PC is 142 gigabytes.
Oh my god. Dang. And we've been like using like PC storage for decades, so it's the most efficient, I would imagine.
Yeah,
that's absolutely fucking incredible.
I remember Mark Cerny saying that game sizes should have gone down with next gen because we were all using SSDs now. So developers, they used to hide the same files on different parts of the drive to make it easier to access, right? Because on a spinning disk hard drive, it would literally have to run through everything to find it. Whereas on an SSD, it just knows where it is and goes for it.
Right.
So he was saying that game sizes should reduce, but I don't think they spend a lot of time optimizing these things because that's like time, and time is money, and it's not really necessary unless you're Call of Duty.
Well, I mean, like I just installed an SSD in my laptop. So I always had an SSD. I had an M.2 SSD for the OS. I always had that, but I had a hard drive. It came automatically installed, a 2.5-inch hard drive. It was 1 terabyte, and it was totally fine. Like, boots up fast. Windows is great. It's on an SSD. It's M.2 as well. It's great. Go to download games. It was totally fine until recently, when more recently, within the last two maybe 3-ish years, when it's like games are starting to be our game, games no longer just load faster on an SSD by default. They're actually taking advantage of an SSD, and then everyone starts getting SSDs. And I feel like even smaller games that could be optimized for a hard drive just aren't anymore. Downloading on Steam, it used to take so fucking long because it would download super fast, and then the hard drive would be moving files, extracting. And then the computer's spinning up, spinning down, spinning up, spinning down. And it's trying to move files around. And I didn't think the spin ups actually were the hard drive, but holy crap. I just got that SSD, like I said, and I just told it, you know what, install a bunch of crap. It was 15,000 times faster. It was ridiculous. It's just, it's insane.
Yeah.
I would like to say one small note here. The Seagate storage apparently does have something exclusive. It has the... what is it called here? The Xbox Velocity Architecture. It says here, this is on the Seagate website, the only available expansion card that replicates the Xbox Velocity Architecture, which provides faster loading times, richer environments, and more immersive gameplay.
I kind of do think that Sony handled the expansion a little better than Microsoft this time around, because those cards are still kind of expensive.
But how much are you going to spend on an SSD?
I don't know.
A 1 terabyte expansion card from Seagate is I'm going to say the non-sale price because there's a sale going on right now. The non-sale price is $204.99 Canadian. If we're looking at if we type in Western digital, PS5, SSD 1 TB for 1 terabyte, and we take a look at that. It's and this is also on sale. This is Canadian as well. So the non-sale price for 1 terabyte is $209. So the Seagate one is actually cheaper. And this is the Western Digital Black SN850p NVMe SSD for PS5 consoles. So it's literally the same price, except you don't have to like open your console at all. You literally plug it in like a memory card and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, arguably, I like the Xbox solution, but I'm an Xbox guy. So like, I'm just going to say that.
It's a more elegant solution.
Yes.
For sure.
I like that. I'm an electronics guy, but I don't want to open my shit.
Speaking of weird Call of Duty things, why do I have to relaunch the game to perform like those hot fixes?
Oh my god, the fucking
What's
like
that about?
update applied or whatever.
Yeah, no other game really does. Actually, that's not true. I think PUBG on my phone does that.
For
But
COD,
I mean,
I always thought it was the UI.
yeah, maybe, but weird. Anyway, that's the news for the week, Matt.
Who's the weak Matt?
You are. You're the weak Matt.
I don't want to be called the weak Matt. That's dumb.
Oh, too bad. But moving on to what we're playing, Matt. What are you playing?
What am I playing? I was playing a bunch of stuff, wasn't I? What have I been playing, Ryan? Oh yes.
You tell me.
Yes. I've been playing what's it called? Batman. Arkham City. So I'm doing the Return to Arkham. There's like the Return to Arkham, like, I don't know, duo games. So there's Arkham
Duolingo.
Asylum, which I already beat. What's that? What'd you say there?
Don't worry about it.
I was like, you trolling me? I thought so.
That's a Duolingo.
Certainly not Duolingo, but there's the two games. So Arkham Asylum I beat a number of months ago, maybe even a year ago at this point. And now I'm playing Arkham City, and I'm enjoying it. What I've done is I'm just sort of playing it here and there. So I'm on, I'll hop online with you guys, play a bit of Fortnite or Overwatch or whatever. And once I'm done that, I'll just like you guys go to bed. So usually I'll stay up for like another like half hour ish, maybe an hour. And so I'm like, well, I'll just like, hop onto Batman. And I've been enjoying it that way. I played Arkham Asylum like pretty, I don't know, I'd say intensely and kind of quick for me. Like I only beat it in like 4 or 5 sessions. And I kind of got bored of it. But I'm having a lot more fun just sort of like taking my time with it, coming back when I feel like it. The same way that I've been treating shows. Like I'm watching The Wire and I love The Wire, but like I'll take a couple weeks off. I'll even, end of a season, I'll take a couple months off, then I'll come back. And it's intentional so that when I come back, I'm like, okay, I'm like ready, for more of The Wire. So I've been enjoying doing that lately. This isn't something I've been doing, but this is something that's upcoming. So Sins of a Solar Empire 2, which is a space RPG, or excuse me, space RTS, just released on Steam. It was on Epic for a while. Just released on Steam. And so we used to play Sins of Solar Empire, the first one, a whole bunch in college. A whole bunch, after school, doing little LAN parties on weekends, things like that. So we're throwing like a big old like LAN party soon. We're doing like an old classic LAN party, getting some of the college guys together, and we're doing Sins of a Solar Empire 2. So I'm like super excited for that. What else have I been doing though? I feel like I've like actually beat some stuff and like finished some things. So I've been doing Apex, of course, a couple wins in Apex. Always a pleasure there. I've been playing a lot actually. My buddy Alex and I've been playing quite a bit of PGA. So we've been doing PGA 2K23, and we've been doing a bunch of like player created courses. So we tried a couple mini putt courses. We tried a pretty cool actually Star Wars course, which was awesome. And then we've also been playing just sort of the regular courses as well, which has been cool. And started also Elder Scrolls Castles. So Elder Scrolls Castles has just come out. I believe you said, Ryan, it's like early access still / beta.
Well, they posted on their social media that it's not officially launching until like September 10th, I think.
Okay.
So we must have gotten in. We both pre-registered, and so we must have either gotten to early access or into like a beta. Because you had mentioned that like, we didn't even get the beta that we like signed up for, but this might be it.
Yeah, because I was kind of shocked. Like the way I understood it, and like I haven't extensively researched this by any means, but like I've played a lot of Bethesda games on my phone. Like I played, I have hours and hours in Fallout Shelter. I literally have my save brought over from my BlackBerry device, like my original save, and I've also played a bunch of Elder Scrolls Blades actually across a couple iterations on my phones because I remember my first phone ran it like absolute garbage. So I just figured, like, based on that, assuming they use those numbers, that I would get into the Elder Scrolls Castles beta, and I guess, quote unquote, I did. But it's a fun game. It's kind of like a more enhanced Fallout Shelter, just in the Elder Scrolls universe. There's more customization with the building. You can choose like partitions / walls, where to put them. You can choose like sort of stairs. You can choose the shape of rooms. You can build sort of like shelves or like 2 floors. So like, for example, I have my like mill to make wood on the bottom floor, and then right above it, but in the same room. So it's kind of like a loft. I have this other, I can't remember what it is now. I think it might be my oil producer. So I have my oil producer up there. But what's super interesting is that it's overlooking like a balcony inside. So you get to choose like, okay, like you don't have to just say this whole room gets a second floor. I only have a second floor over half the room because one of my other workstations takes up 2 floors because it has a big chimney. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely going to be some like cool designs I'm sure that people come up with, and I'm sure updates and stuff will come to that. And I just recently got the war table, I believe it's called, so I can start going out into the world. It's not as involved as a Fallout Shelter quest. So Fallout Shelter, you like click on each room of like, let's say a building that you're entering, and your guys automatically fight people, but you can sort of play this like sort of time tapping or like a time sensitive game where you like tap in a certain sequence to shoot with VATS. And your guys automatically shoot. In this game, it's not guns, but so in my case, it's swords, and your guys just kind of run in there and start fighting automatically, which I found kind of interesting. Like you're not tapping on rooms. You're not like kind of like exploring the building. You're just sort of fighting. Now, I will say the Fallout Shelter ones get a bit tedious, but it's a mobile game. So like, I think tedium is it comes with the territory a little bit. The one complaint I have with it right now is it's a very wishy-washy. There's a lot of things, and even you said this, Ryan, where it's like really hard to manage like really specific things. Like if you really want to manage somebody's like family tree, it's like pretty confusing.
No, it's crazy. I don't know what's going on.
It is crazy. And like I tried to do this like crazy thing where I was like, it's medieval times. Like let's do something like their family trees were all fucked up. So I had the queen, because there's like a little bit of a story where there's like the king died. And like right at the beginning, the king dies, and the king allegedly had this like girlfriend, and like the queen knew about it, and the queen kind of threatens that person. But like her son, the queen's son, is like kind of against the mother. And you can say like, don't, like in my case, I said, hey, like, I'll prove to you that like she's the one that killed him or whatever. And so I did like some crazy family tree stuff. I had the son marry the lover of his deceased father, and I had the queen marry the old man, which is the advisor in the game that like teaches you the tutorial. And I was just like, oh, whatever. And then I thought it was like Fallout Shelter. So like, if you put 2 people in a room, they just bang it out and have a kid. So I put like the old dude and I put the queen in there, and I waited a while. I was doing other tasks, and the old dude just kept saying I'm too old. And the queen kept saying, I know. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. So then later on, a tutorial shows up, and this is where the wishy-washiness comes in, where it's like, every hour, I think every hour is a year of your like people's lives, and they go from like child to adolescence to like adult to elder, and then they die. And I thought, oh shit, like I didn't know that. And so that old man can't bang it out because he's too old, he's an elder. So I took like, just out of curiosity, I like took him out of the room, and I dragged some random ass Argonian into the room. They hit it off. They banged it out. They had a kid. And then she goes back to her throne, and you make sort of like these royal decisions, like, help the people do this and that, whatever they come to you with their problems. And it's so sad. The advisor like goes up. He's like, I know you've been screwing around with like this other guy, and like you're like, this is a disgrace, like you're making me look like an idiot kind of thing, like you're embarrassing me. And one of the responses, which I did not select, one of the responses is like, come on, the queen can have some fun every once in a while. So like it has a little bit of like that, that humor, like that Fallout humor. But if you're like, I'm just screwing around, so the micromanagement doesn't matter too much to me. But if you wanted to micromanage, I just feel as though the management stuff is just not quite there. Like this game is like, for example, I took somebody from their workstation, I put them into the Statue of Mara, and then took someone else on the workstation, put them in the Statue of Mara so they could get married. Once they were married, they just went off and did their own thing. They went back to work. They did, took breaks when they needed to, etc. What's crazy is that I took people and put them in the bedroom to make children, thinking that once they made a child, they would leave the room, which they did, but they didn't go back to their jobs. Yeah. And so I had to I was like, hey, hang on, why am I not making burlap anymore? I have to go flipping around I want to say dwellers. That's not right. My citizens, I guess. I have to go flipping around my citizens trying to find where the heck they are so I can reassign them. There's better controls for management than there are in Fallout Shelter, but it's still wishy-washy. It's still hard to do something really specific if you want to. And they do have, Ryan, like you even mentioned, they do have almost like a family tree. Like you can click on them and click on the top left of their card, like the little character card. And it shows okay, these are their lovers. This is their spouse. This is their friend. These are their children. So the game is keeping track of it. It's just really difficult to kind of wrap your head around. But I mean, I guess it would be hard to display in some sort of graph. Cause I guess it would get really messy if you had a lot of citizens. Mm-hmm. But, other than, Elder Scrolls Legends, Elder Scrolls Castles, excuse me. What else have I been doing? I feel like I've done something else that was really big. I think I said I beat RoboCop, right? Have you said that? Oh, we beat Halo Reach. That was the other big thing we beat. We completed Halo Reach, and we are on to Halo 4. We're kind of ripping through these games, which is kind of nuts on stream. It's 2 or 3 streams. And then it's all right, this game's done. And we used to play these games for ever as kids. And I feel like I never hit the end that often. So it's why, what the hell was I doing? But I think that's largely been my week. The only thing I did want to mention is that I tried out, and Ryan, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this so Ryan, you tried out Assassin's Creed VR.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah.
And you could talk about the game during your whatever, but the thing that you mentioned that I wanted to bring up is that you got motion sick, and you said you got motion sick because you were moving your character by actually using the stick like you would a console game, and you weren't using the teleporting method.
Right.
Right. So I booted up my VR headset, my Quest 2, downloaded the Game Pass app, so I was not in a VR game. Put the screen, so what it basically does is it puts a big screen in front of you and you can play a Game Pass game. So I connected my controller via Bluetooth, I booted up Starfield, and I booted it up with the XL display, which is the largest, which is probably an 80-inch TV or something in front of your face. And I was playing that, and I do not get motion sick in VR unless I'm falling. And I got motion sick from moving around. And I was talking to you about how in all my other games that I've played, either I teleport around or the game is on rails and it only moves for a little bit of a duration or fades out and fades back into a new scene. Yeah. And I thought that was super interesting because, again, I was not fully immersed. I wasn't completely surrounded. I was just looking at, a digital TV, a virtual TV. But I legitimately did get a little motion sick, which I thought was super interesting. But
what do you think that means?
I don't know. You and I were kind of discussing how VR kind of seems like it's, I don't know,
dying.
Either dying or it's just sort of plateaued. Well, for example, it's not a good look that in the MetaQuest store or whatever the app store is there, that Prime Video VR is showing up prominently in my feed there. Mm-hmm. And Prime Video VR has tons of reviews that say that the app doesn't work anymore. That's a bad look, and it feels like an app store that's dying. There's certainly new things being released. Certainly, there's people still using their Quest 2. I'm not saying it's it's dead or it will die, but it just sort of feels like the excitement is over and we're where we're at, and that's it. And I'm just sort of curious, how many people are getting sick from this? I know we're a sample size of 2, but how many people are getting sick from just moving around regularly?
I didn't get sick when just in it. I know some people get sick while in it. It was only when the movement was not matching what my body was doing. And they made me look for something, which always pisses me off. I don't know what it is. I get all hot and then I get a headache. And so they had me walking around getting sick and then also looking for something. And I'm I had to take this off. I'm sweating profusely.
Does that even happen on a regular console game? If it's look for this, you start getting the headache in that?
If I have to look for a certain period. I remember the first time this happened actually too, because I was playing Pokemon Gold back on my Game Boy Color, and I was in some cave looking for a way out, and I was like, I'm getting sick, and that was the first time that ever happened to me.
Shrek, I'm getting sick.
I don't know why that would cause that, but it's just I don't know. I just get frustrated, and then I just like I'm done.
That sucks.
Yeah, but there just doesn't seem to be the investment in VR. With Wii, it's like everyone was trying to make a motion game.
Yeah.
Everyone was striving to try to find the next big motion game. That doesn't really seem to be what's happening with VR. Sony literally launched the PSVR 2. They built the hardware, are selling PSVR 2s, and none of their major first parties are working on games for it. Like, that's absurd.
What's really absurd about that is like Sony first party games are like genre defining. Like Last of Us original release on PS3, like that's a PS3 defining game.
Yeah.
It's probably on many top 10 lists, top 5s even, really. That's a very that's a very important game to the history of that generation, to the PS3.
Yeah. Weird, eh?
It's like even in the case of Assassin's Creed, it's like Ubisoft kind of said that they didn't want to continue investing more, I believe is what they said. Don't quote me on that exactly, but I believe it's like they're not exactly like quitting VR, but they're not being like, hey, Assassin's Creed was received well critically, which it was. Let's go full force and let's make 2 games this time in VR. It just seems like, maybe they'll make a VR game here and there. Maybe they'll support a game here and there, but it doesn't seem like they're going to be going hard into it. And so like when you look at the games that defined, so let's just say the Quest 2, and yes, I know the Quest 3 is related and all that, but like the games that define the Quest 2, it's like Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners comes up every time. And it's like, that's a great game. I'm not trying to discount the quality of that game, but I will say that it's bad that it's always that game that comes up. It means that nothing has pushed it out of the way.
Yeah.
Which is really, really unfortunate. Hell, one of my favorite games that's currently installed on my VR headset is the fucking Zombieland game. Yeah. Of all the goddamn things, of all the things I have installed on there, crazy. But no, I don't know. It's just an observation. Like, I was just curious, like, whether many people with regular movement, whether or not they're in a quote unquote VR game or not, are receiving that sort of like nausea. And I just was, I don't have the numbers today or anything, but I was just curious. Like, I'm curious to know if that's playing a role at all, where like, people don't want to buy the hardware. B, there's like, kind of lackluster support. And then C, it's like, hey, there's a good chance of you getting sick. Yeah. And it's like, well, like, I'm out of here then, right? Like, it makes, especially if you're on a budget, it's like, well, maybe I won't do that.
I know that experience with that game made me rethink buying a MetaQuest.
With AC?
Yeah. However, I did play a game, I believe that came with it, where it was like some sort of alien blaster game. And you scan your house or your room, whatever you're in, and then aliens will literally break through your walls, and you have like 2 blasters in your hands, and you got to shoot them as they like approach you or whatever. And like that game was kind of cool. It was more of a mixed reality game than like an AR game than a VR game. That was pretty fun. I don't know how often I'd play it, but it was a fun party game,
And like that sounds like the same sort of experience that I have with like the Zombieland game. It almost feels, what both those experiences sort of sound like? It feels like the Wii again. Yeah. Where exactly. It's like these mini games are fun, but like, am I really going to invest a bunch of time? Am I going to invest in the headset to have these experiences? Yeah.
There's only one VR game I'm interested in, and that's Half-Life Alyx, and only because it was like critically acclaimed. That's about it. And that launched several years ago.
Not Boneworks, eh?
I don't never even heard of that.
Boneworks is like a really popular and like apparently a very well done shooter.
Do not know.
But I just hear it mentioned beside Half-Life Alyx a bunch. I don't think it's not related story wise or anything. But
in terms of me, what I play, are you done? Sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Ryan. Yeah.
The obvious Overwatch, Fortnite, new season of Fortnite just started. I did boot it up. Sound like Adriano now. It's the same games every week. But Elder Scrolls Castles, I've been having a great time playing that. When it's not heating up my phone, killing my battery life.
And boy, oh boy, does it.
I just booted up Fallout Shelter. The phone cool as can be. Yep. So they got some optimization things to work out. I do have a lot of issues. I'm enjoying Castles, but for some reason, it's just not clicking with me. The people management. I've been a long time since I played Fallout Shelter, but I just remember it being easier to see what each person was good at, and so I would know what room to put them in. And now I just don't know. I'm just kind of assigning them. It does give you the number when you put them over like the workshop or something, like a number that whether they're positive or not. But I don't know. It's just not clicking with me. I don't know. It's annoying that I had to go make babies. That's real annoying.
Yeah, you had to do that in Fallout Shelter as well, though.
You had to put them in a room and make babies?
Yeah.
But people would just show up outside.
Correct.
And you could add new people. It's like I've had the same people now for, I don't know, ages.
Yeah. So. Like I feel like my gene pool is like diminishing or something.
Obviously, it'll get updates and fixes along the way, but I think it's a good start. I've been having fun with it. It's nice to have a game like that that you can just kind of open and play for a bit and then close, you know?
Well, what do you think about, and maybe this is like part of your problem with assigning people, is what do you think about how, so in Fallout, there was like sort of the special attributes, right? Mm-hmm. Strength, perception, etc. And then it was also influenced by their clothes. So it'd be like, oh, you're going to put them in this room. You know, they're going to work in the power plant, let's just say, and the power plant, you know, benefits from strength. This person has, 5 strength in the special, and then actually 7th strength total because they have a +2 on their shirt. So then, like, it's pretty easy to like click and drag them in. And it has a similar thing. I liked,
yeah.
Right, and it has like a very like similar thing in castles. However, there's nuance now because each person has like a perk or like a trait. Where like it'll be like this person's bossy, this person's happy, this person's like whatever. Like, what do you think about those?
Yeah, that's all right. I don't mind that. I think it's annoying that you have to like swipe to the card to like see more information on every person, or not swipe, but tap that button, right?
That is annoying.
I need a better way to just look at things at a glance.
Yeah,
I can't even tell what like my kitchen. I can't tell how far it is in making its food. I have to tap on it, which is annoyingly difficult because all the people are in the way. And so you're tapping on them and you're just selecting people. And it's like, no, I want to tap the kitchen,
Yeah.
And then it gives me a little tiny timer, not like a bar or anything, a little tiny timer on the top. And it's just like, there's just these little quality of life things I think they need to hammer out.
What do you, like, one thing that you were complaining to me too, and I have this problem a bunch, is like you're just trying to scroll through your castle and you accidentally drag somebody into another workstation.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's infuriating.
I wish I don't mind the picking up and dragging people around, but I wish there was just a way to get a list of all my citizens, and then be able to see who's jobless really quickly, and then click on them and then assign them to a place. And when assigning them to a place, tell me how many people are in that place.
Yeah,
because I don't know if I'm just dragging them to one that's full or not, and then what happens? I don't know what happens when that happens.
It feels to be like it probably kicks somebody out. I think that's what it does. It's Fallout Shelter, but it feels like they haven't they want you to zoom in and like be really like immersed, and like they want you to be like this person's doing this in my mill, and like one of the people are haunted, and so sometimes like he'll run away because like this ghost appears, and the ghost will like do his job and stuff, and like it feels like they really want you to like sort of see those things. Whereas if the game turns into a game like you're saying, which I don't disagree with you, it'll become very much like, it's almost like the mini-map dilemma where everyone stares at the mini-map. Mm-hmm. It'll be like everyone ignores the actual castle because they're literally managing the castle from like effectively like a fancy spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's basically all I've been playing. We
beat the season, don't we? Like we beat the Fortnite season.
Beat the Fortnite season, beat the Overwatch season. New season's starting up for both. Horrible. All right, that's it for now. You can catch us streaming more Halo on twitch.tv/DayOnePatchMedia. Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you guys next time.
Yo, peace.